Most cat owners do this every single day without realizing what it's actually doing to their cat's body. They open the can, fill the bowl, and walk away, totally unaware that this one daily habit is quietly shaping almost every system inside their cat. Their kidneys, their teeth, their weight, their mood, even how long they live. But here's the thing, depending on how you're doing it, wet food every day could be the single greatest thing you ever did for your cat. Or it could be slowly creating problems you won't notice until it's too late. So what actually happens inside your cat when they eat wet food every single day? We did the research, and some of what we found genuinely surprised us. Stay with us, because number 4 is something almost every cat owner gets completely wrong. Let's start with something that sounds simple, but is genuinely life-changing for cats: water. Cats are descended from desert animals. Their wild ancestors got almost all of their moisture from the prey they hunted, raw meat that is roughly 70% water. Because of this evolutionary history, cats have a very weak thirst drive compared to dogs or humans. They don't feel thirsty the way we do. They can be chronically dehydrated and show almost no signs of it. Dry kibble contains only about 10% moisture. Wet food contains between 70 and 80% moisture, almost identical to what a cat would eat in the wild. When you feed your cat wet food every day, you are essentially tricking their ancient biology into getting the hydration it was designed for, without them ever having to drink a drop. Why does this matter so much? Because the #1 killer of domestic cats is kidney disease, and chronic low-level dehydration is one of the most significant contributors to kidney stress over a cat's lifetime. Studies have shown that cats eating wet food produce significantly more dilute urine, which means their kidneys aren't working as hard, and waste is being flushed through the system more effectively. Over years, this difference adds up enormously. If your cat is currently on a dry food diet and seems uninterested in their water bowl, that's not stubbornness, that's biology. Their ancestors never drank from still puddles. They got water from meat. So the first thing that happens when you switch your cat to daily wet food? Their kidneys breathe a quiet sigh of relief every single day. But water is just the beginning. Because what wet food does to your cat's urinary system is only one piece of a much bigger picture, and the next one involves something owners almost never think about. Here's a number that should alarm you. Over 60% of domestic cats in the United States are classified as overweight or obese. And obesity in cats isn't just a cosmetic issue. It dramatically increases the risk of diabetes, joint disease, liver problems, and shortened lifespan. So what does wet food have to do with it? Everything. Cats are obligate carnivores. That means their bodies are biologically wired to run on protein and fat, not carbohydrates. Dry kibble, even premium brands, is packed with carbohydrates. It needs them for the manufacturing process, to hold the kibble's shape. Most dry foods contain between 30 and 50% carbohydrates. For a creature whose natural diet contains almost none, that's a massive metabolic mismatch. Wet food, by contrast, is typically high in protein, moderate in fat, and very low in carbohydrates, closely mirroring what a cat would eat naturally. When a cat eats a high-protein meal, they feel genuinely satisfied. When they eat carbohydrate-heavy food, they can eat and still feel like something is missing, because their body is searching for nutrients it's not getting. This is why free-feeding dry kibble is such a trap. The cat eats more than it should, not out of greed, but because its body is fundamentally unsatisfied. Feeding wet food once or twice a day, in measured portions, tends to result in cats eating appropriate amounts, feeling full, and naturally maintaining a healthier weight, without you having to do much at all. The cat's metabolism does the work, because it's finally running on the fuel it was built for. Now, this doesn't mean all wet foods are equal. And this brings us to something genuinely important, something most people checking ingredients completely overlook. We'll get to that in a moment. But first, let's talk about what's happening to your cat's teeth. Here's one of the most persistent myths in cat nutrition, and it's one that the pet food industry has done very little to correct. Dry food cleans your cat's teeth. You've probably heard this. It's been repeated by well-meaning pet owners for decades. The idea is that the hard crunch of kibble scrapes plaque off the teeth as the cat chews. The truth? Most cats don't actually chew their kibble at all. They crack it and swallow. The brief contact between kibble and tooth does virtually nothing for dental hygiene. Veterinary dental experts have largely moved away from this claim, and the American Veterinary Dental College has stated that this idea is not well supported by evidence. So does that mean wet food is worse for teeth? Not necessarily. Dental health in cats is primarily determined by genetics, regular brushing, and veterinary dental care, not by what texture of food they eat. Cats on wet food who receive basic dental care maintain comparable dental health to cats on dry food. The wet food equals bad teeth narrative is largely a myth, and ironically, some veterinary dentists argue that the sticky, starchy nature of kibble can actually adhere to teeth and contribute to plaque buildup in ways that wet food, which produces more saliva, does not. The real dental lesson here isn't about wet versus dry food. It's that most cats, regardless of diet, don't get nearly enough dental attention. 85% of cats over 3 years old have some form of dental disease. That's a problem that goes far beyond what's in the food bowl. So, wet food does not ruin your cat's teeth. And now, let's get to number 4, the one we promised, because this one genuinely catches people off guard. Okay, number 4, here it is. Most cat owners who switch to wet food believe they are automatically making a healthier choice. And in many cases, they are. But there is a hidden problem lurking in a huge number of wet cat foods, one that undoes almost every benefit we just talked about. Carrageenan. Carrageenan is a thickening agent derived from seaweed. It's used in the food industry, both human and pet, to give wet food that smooth, gel-like texture. It makes food look appealing. It makes canned cat food hold its shape. And it has been linked in multiple studies to gastrointestinal inflammation. Now, the research is ongoing, and there is debate in the scientific community about the exact risk level. But a significant number of veterinary nutritionists and integrative vets recommend avoiding carrageenan-containing pet foods, particularly for cats with sensitive stomachs, IBD, or chronic digestive issues. Here's what makes this so tricky. Carrageenan appears in foods that otherwise look healthy: premium brands, natural labels, limited ingredient recipes. If you're not reading the label closely, you won't catch it. How do you spot it? Flip the can over. Look at the ingredients list. Carrageenan will appear somewhere in the middle or toward the end. If you see it, especially if your cat has recurring digestive issues, consider trying a brand that doesn't use it. There are plenty of excellent wet cat foods that don't contain carrageenan at all. Once you know to look, it takes 10 seconds to check. This is the thing almost no one tells you when they say, just switch to wet food. Because wet food is not a monolith. The quality difference between the best and worst canned cat foods is enormous, and your cat can't read the label. You can. Alright, now let's talk about something on the opposite end of the spectrum. Something wet food does beautifully, and almost nobody appreciates it until they see the results. This one surprises people every time. Feeding your cat wet food every day doesn't just affect their body, it affects their behavior. Wild cats are solitary hunters. They hunt, they catch, they eat, and then they rest. The entire rhythm of their day is organized around this cycle: anticipation, effort, reward, satisfaction, sleep. In a domestic environment, a cat who is free-fed kibble 24/7 never experiences this cycle. The food is just always there. There's no hunt, no reward, no real sense of satisfaction after a meal. But a cat who gets fed wet food on a schedule, once or twice a day, same time, high protein, aromatic, deeply satisfying, goes through something much closer to that ancient rhythm. They anticipate the meal. They eat with genuine engagement. They feel full and satisfied. And then they groom themselves and sleep deeply. Many cat behaviorists note that cats on scheduled wet food meals tend to be calmer, less demanding, and display fewer food-related anxiety behaviors, things like excessive meowing, food aggression, or obsessive attention-seeking around mealtimes. This is also why puzzle feeders and interactive feeding toys work so well with wet food. You're recreating the hunt-eat cycle in miniature, and cats respond to it on a deeply instinctual level. The meal isn't just fuel, it's a behavioral reset. For cats who are anxious, highly vocal, or seem chronically understimulated, switching to scheduled wet food feedings, combined with some form of enrichment, can produce changes in temperament that owners describe as remarkable. Calmer, more content, more themselves. The cat hasn't changed. Their environment has simply started matching their biology. And speaking of biology, let's talk about something almost no one thinks about when they're standing in the pet food aisle. Something that might be the most important factor of all. Here's the honest truth that underlies everything we've covered today. The difference between a cat who ages well and a cat who doesn't is rarely one dramatic decision. It's the accumulation of small daily choices, made consistently, over years, often without visible feedback. Wet food is one of those choices. The kidneys don't give you a warning light. Chronic dehydration doesn't announce itself. Metabolic strain from a high-carb diet doesn't show up as an obvious symptom for years. By the time most cat owners notice that something is wrong, the damage has been building quietly for a long time. This is especially true for senior cats. As cats age, generally from about 7 years onward, their kidneys become progressively less efficient. Their ability to concentrate urine decreases. Their need for high-quality, easily digestible protein increases. And their thirst drive, already low, often decreases further. For an aging cat, wet food isn't a nice-to-have. For many vets, it's effectively a form of daily supportive care. The hydration alone can meaningfully reduce stress on kidneys that are already beginning to slow down. The high protein supports muscle mass at a time when cats naturally begin to lose it. Cats who have been eating wet food throughout their lives tend to enter their senior years in better baseline condition than cats who are on dry food only. Their kidneys have less accumulated damage. Their weight is often better managed. Their overall resilience is higher. If your cat is still young, you have the gift of time. Starting now means every year of their life benefits. If your cat is already in their senior years, it's not too late. Even switching an older cat to wet food, slowly, carefully, over a few weeks to avoid digestive upset, can make a measurable difference. And that brings us to the practical part, because knowing all of this means nothing without a clear picture of what to actually do. So you want to feed your cat wet food every day. Here's how to do it properly. First, transition slowly. If your cat is currently on dry food, don't cold turkey swap overnight. Start by mixing a small amount of wet food into their dry food. Over 1 to 2 weeks, gradually shift the ratio. This prevents digestive upset and gives your cat time to adjust to the new texture and smell. Second, check the label. Look for real meat as the first ingredient. Avoid foods where byproducts, corn, wheat, or soy appear near the top. Scan for carrageenan and consider avoiding it. Aim for foods where protein, not carbohydrate, dominates the ingredient list. Third, establish a feeding schedule. Twice daily is ideal for most adult cats. Morning and evening, same time, measured portions. This is better for their digestion, better for their behavior, and better for weight management than free feeding. Fourth, watch the response. Give your cat 2 to 3 weeks on wet food and pay attention. Is their coat shinier? Are they calmer? Less demanding? Litter box output is also a useful signal. More dilute urine means better hydration. These small signs tell you a lot. Fifth, consult your vet for cats with existing conditions. If your cat has kidney disease, diabetes, urinary issues, or GI problems, your vet may have specific wet food recommendations or may advise a prescription diet. Wet food is generally beneficial, but your cat's specific situation matters. That's the whole picture, not complicated, just deliberate. The cats who thrive on wet food aren't special. They just have owners who pay attention. And you clearly do, because you're still here. Here's the thing about cats. They can't tell you what they need. They can't describe discomfort. They can't ask for better food. They just live with whatever we give them, adapting, enduring, compensating. But they also respond, quietly, gradually, unmistakably, when their needs are finally met. If you've been thinking about making a change after watching this, that instinct is worth following. The cats who live longest and happiest aren't lucky. They're cared for by people who took the time to understand them. You just did. If this video was useful to you, subscribe. We post new cat behavior and nutrition content every week. And if you have a cat who made a dramatic transformation after changing their diet, drop it in the comments. We read every single one. See you in the next one.